Hello, in this video I'll try to explain a bit how you can map densejack and vibrojack. I'll try to explain some patterning and how I go about mapping densejack and how some other people go about mapping densejack. And I'll show some examples of patterning in using my own maps as an example. Okay, so first you start out by choosing a song. In this case I chose Fit Away by Forget. I took the timing from them. Thank you, this person. You can time it yourself, but I'm not very good at it, so I took it from them. Okay, so I like to begin with listening to the song to where the tension begins. Okay, in this case, that's here. Okay, when I get to the dance check, I like to listen to if there's any sound, if there are any parts that really like stand out. In this case, that's here. That part really stands out. So start by mapping that. And this is just how I like to map it. Some other people might do it a different way, but this is just how I like to do it. Okay, so for this part. Okay, so I would map it like this. Yeah, and if I just wanted to map it, like how I wanted to map it, I would map it something like this. In my mind, this would be the most fitting. But as you can tell, this is a bit control. It's not like the hardest thing ever, but it could be a lot easier. So if I wanted to make it vibrojack, for example, I would change it to be like this. It still sounds fitting to the song, in my opinion a bit less than how I had it before, but it just depends on your goal, what you have with the map, and I mean just the pattern that you want to do. If you think this is more fitting, then you should use this. If you think the other way is more fitting, then you should do that. If you want that to be the goal, to be like how you want to map it. If you want it to be easy, then I would recommend this. If you want it to be controlled, then I would recommend the other way more than this, but there are also other ways you can map it that's even more control or even more vibro. You can also map it like this. I don't think this would be fitting because you have no emphasis on this part. So I think this would be the best way to map it as vibrojack. Okay, so now it's time to listen if there's any other parts like that. Okay, so this is also a part with lots of emphasis. Very similar sounding to this, so I would copy this and turn it around with Ctrl H. Let's turn it around, yeah. Okay, and this part too. You can do a lot more after this part, but I'm too lazy to map it right now. But you can be a lot more creative on this part. Yeah, you can be a lot more creative on that part, but I'm too lazy, and this is better to show like some beginner-friendly way to make densejack maybe. Okay, so after I finished all this, oh wait, and this sounds a bit different than the first one, so I mean this and this is not the same, so I would recommend change the pattern a bit. because it is a different sound. It is not the same, but it is similar. So I would recommend it in the same way, having it in the same way, but it is different, so not exactly the same. So I would recommend copy pasting. Okay, but all the hard parts are done. I'll explain a bit of patterning now before moving on to mapping the rest of the densejack parts. Okay, so some general explaining of patterning. This is the easiest way. This is very easiest to control because you just move your hand up. You move your hand up. You don't have to control anything with your finger or anything. You just like don't vibro a bit, or don't jack with that hand for like one note. If you want it to be more control, then you can do something like this. Then you still don't have the control here, but you do have control here. You have to still hit this with your finger. You still have to hit this with your finger. So you need to control this. A good thing to keep in mind is the strain is on this finger. On these fingers, not on this one. This one is just vibroing. But this one has to do something. So this is where the strain is. You can also do it like this. Then the strain is, then you have strain, control strain both times. Because both times you have to move your finger, not your hand. You can also do this, which is the same. I mean, which is the same thingy. You still have to, you can't just move your hand up to hit this. So you still have to control it. So if you want to go for a vibrojack map, for example, then I would recommend something like this. This is the easiest, or something like this. And if you want to make it more control, something like this maybe. And for singular notes, like single gaps, you can do this, which is pretty easy. You can do this, which is pretty easy. It just depends on how the song flows and how the rest of the map is mapped. If there's a really long anchor here, then it will be easier to have the gap here. If there's a lot of control here, then it will be easier to have the gap here, because you already have a lot of strain from the control here. You can also map like this, which with the strain from control on the same hands. You can also map like this, which is the same. You can also map it like this, which puts the control on the same finger back to back, which is very hard. So if you want to make a very control map, then this pattern is very good. It's very good for control practice, but it is really hard to play. And then you can also use triples. I mean 4-3-3. So you can do something like this or like this. This might be a bit easier because you move from one hand to the other, which is also what you did here. You move from one hand to another, so it's a bit easier. Same here. You can also do it like this, like this, like this. Oh, but you can also do it like this, which is very hard for the same reason that this was hard. But you also have another. You also have control on the same hand again. So you have back to back here, and you have control here. So that's also really hard. But you should just, if you want to practice control, then this is a good pattern to use, and this. But you should also just use what you think sounds the best with the map. If you think this sounds the most fitting, then you should use it if you want. If you like don't really care about control or anything. But it is good to keep in mind that this is pretty control. And this. But for example, this wouldn't be control because you're just vibroing this and then you're just checking this. You don't have to control this much. But this is control. You can also move it like this, which is a little bit less control. yeah, that's basically it. 2 nodes back, stuff like this is very hard. Also, stuff like this is very hard, and stuff like this is very hard, and stuff like this is very hard. So if you want to make a control map, then patterns like these that I just talked about are very good. But if you want to make more vibro map, then it's just better to use something that isn't super control. Yeah, okay. Okay, so now it's time to map the rest of that part. Okay, for me the best sounding is dun 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 dun. Yeah. And then I would like to reverse it here. And it's similar here, but it's different. So how did I map it? 1, 3, 2. Oh wait, no, never mind. Okay, so I can. Okay, this should be reversed. Because if I didn't reverse this, then the gap would be here, and then it would overlap here, putting more strain. So, and then when I'm done mapping, I can check it with auto mods. You can, if you want to map it like vibrojack, it might be better to map it in 1-2, so there's like more gaps, but I don't like mapping it 1-2. So I'll keep it like this. Now I'll show some patterns. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can map densejack. Like for example this map. Variety, a good thing to keep in mind with densejack, variety is good, but you shouldn't just map variety for the sake of variety. If the sound is the same, I mean you can if you want, but I don't think it's very fitting. So it's just my personal opinion. You can change the patterns even though the sound is the same. I just don't think it's fitting. But it is subjective. So if you want to, if you like it, then you can. I personally just don't like mapping like that. I personally prefer mapping like this, where it's songs where the sounds like really changes. So in this map, for example, I kept, when the sound is the same, I kept the patterns the same, but when the sound changes, I change the patterns. Like if you listen, it only changes when the sound changes. Like the sound is very different from before. It's even more obvious in the rest of the map because there's a lot of sound changes there. Every bookmark is a pattern change. And as you can hear, the sound changes, so the pattern changes. And as you can see, there's a lot of different ways you can map densejack. It's also kind of core jack, but I made sure it's not like super hard or anything. There's a lot of different ways you can map. It just depends on what you think sounds most fitting. But you can also map it like vibrojack. Let me see here. Like as you can see, this is a lot easier. I still need to clean up the patterns a bit, but as you can see, this is a lot easier than the other map. I mean, actually there's a lot harder maps. This, for example, this is very controlled. This uses a lot of hard patterns. This map is like super hard. But I do like how I mapped this. I love this artist, by the way. Shanna Sleep, Goated Artist. You can also schizo map. It just depends how you want to map it. I found this funny, so I mapped it like this. But you can also add a lot of variety without like the other map. Patterns like this are pretty hard, but I just found it most fitting. With mapping, the only thing that really matters the most is that you like what you map. If someone gives advice, you should like listen to it and try it and see if it fits for you. Because who knows, maybe the advice they give is really helpful and you can use it to improve your mapping lots in the future and maybe make it easier for yourself, or you make maps that you're happier with. So it is good to listen to advice, but it's also good to keep in mind that it is your map and the advice shouldn't destroy the idea that you have for the map. You shouldn't like change your map just to fit others' views of it. If they want the map to be a certain way, then they can map it that way. If you have a different idea for the map, then you should map it how you want it to be, because it's your map. You should like map it how you think it would be made. Yeah, you should just map it how you want it to be made. Except if you want it to be like a practice map. If you want it to be a vibro control practice map or like vibrojack, then you should prioritize patterns like that. If you want it to be more control, then you should prioritize patterns that are more control. But otherwise, you should just use the patterns that you think sound the best with it. Also, with practice maps, you should still use patterns that you think sound the best, even inside only the group that does fit the category of control versus vibrojack. You can still use a lot of stuff to make your map more cool, I guess. Yeah, just use what you think sounds best. Also, by the way, it's very good to use GI on mapping. It makes it easier to keep track of like what's densejack and what is like other stuff. But yeah, I'm really proud of this map, for example. It has a lot of different patterns. And like very easy part here, but then it's more control there. Also, I really like this. Oh. Others might have a different view on how this should be mapped, for example, but I think this is the most fitting, so I map it like this. But others might interpret it a different way and map it a different way, and that's okay too. You should just do what you think sounds the best. Yeah, I hope it's a bit helpful. Oh. Also, I don't know. I like mapping high BPM. You should just map whatever you like. If you like mapping lower BPM, you can just do 1, 2, and voila, it's half the BPM. But if you like making high BPM maps, you can. The reason I like high BPM maps more, because you can interpret more of the sounds that way. When it's 1, 2, sometimes you have to like get rid of. You can't really map some of the sounds because it's either falls outside of the 1, 2, or it will become super control. So yeah, you should map it how you want it to be mapped. Something that is mostly true is if you do want it to be played more, you should probably map it in 1, 2, unless it's low BPM. Because most of the players are lower rank. That's just how it works. the top 5% isn't 5% of isn't most of the players. That's 5% of the players. So if you want your map to be played a bit more, I don't know, map lower lower SR, like 4-star, 5-star. But if you, I don't know, just map how you want to map. If you think a song is most fitting in 1-2, then you should map it in 1-2. If you think it's most fitting in 1-4, you should map it in 1-4. If you think it's most fitting in 1-8 or 1-6, then you should map it in that. Yeah, I hope it's a bit helpful. You can also make use of anchors to interpret sounds. Because if you can hear it, that's what the anchors map to. So you can make use of anchors to map sounds. It isn't only the gaps that you can use to map. But yeah, I hope it was a bit helpful, and good luck with mapping. Goodbye.